Welcome to another Traffic Cardinal podcast where we discuss all things affiliate marketing and all things related. Today, our guest is number one LinkedIn creator in Serbia, Nikolett Jaksa. Good, finally we're here. I'm very glad to see you after all those rescheduling, all those messes. Finally. We can talk about you, finally. I'm very excited. I'm gone home. So,
I'm excited.
Yes. You're now in the top 1% LinkedIn personal brand strategists worldwide. Applause. So, yeah, I'm very glad to hear it. I'm very glad to read it because this is a very big achievement for women, you know. This is impressive, honestly. Jokes aside. So, has your life changed since you started blogging there? Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, it actually changed a lot but not in a way that people would usually expect, because most people think that it's more about like followers and visibility. And yes, that came. I grew 40,000 followers in 2 years and worked with 30 plus founders and CEOs and got featured in Forbes twice. But the biggest shift was for me is independence, actually, because I went from being a student for having a full remote job to building a business that supports my life while I am still at university. So I moved into my own apartment, started working with clients all over the world, and just created opportunities that I didn't even know that existed before. And what I love most that it all came from writing. So that's insane if you actually think about that. I had no ads or fancy funnels. I was just showing up, shared what I was thinking about, and I was building in public. So it also changed how I see opportunities. Now I don't wait for opportunities to come to me. I create them by being visible and posting on LinkedIn 4 times a week. Because the truth is, a lot of people are skilled, but the ones who are seen are the ones who get picked.
I see. So let's speak about creation. You see, you have a very impressive creative streak, I have to say. And as a fellow blogger, I have to commend you on that, honestly. So I also have a fairly popular account on Twitter, and this is different from what you do on LinkedIn because, I have to drop a few lines and it's going to be all right. I have the reactions. But you have to do a lot more. You have to actually write something. And my question is, do you ever feel like you're logging in and then you realize that you actually have some kind of vacuum in your head? You do not really know what to write and how to write. Do you have those days and how do you cope with them?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
I think people assume that once you figure it out, you just sit down and get posts. Great posts come out, but that's not how it works. So there are definitely days where I just open a blank page and nothing makes sense. So the words peel off or everything sounds forced. So I start over 5 times. But I don't see that as a creative block anymore. So most of the time, it just means one of these two things. Either I am overthinking and trying to sound smart instead of clear, or I am disconnected from real conversations and what people actually care about, because most of my content comes from conversations I have with people. So instead of forcing it, I step away from writing and go engage. So I read comments, reply to people, scroll with intention, and usually something clicks again so I can create again. Because writing on LinkedIn isn't just being in creative mode, but it's more about being connected to people. And the posts that perform best are rarely the ones I overthink, and they're the ones that feel just simple and real, because when I overthink a post, it just never lands. And when I just post something because I just had a great idea randomly, it always performs well. So it's funny how that works.
Okay, you've touched upon the subject of comments, and here is actually the question. As a fellow blogger, again, I can predict your answer, but I will ask anyway. Do you ever come across offensive comments, absurd comments perhaps? And how do you react to them? Do you actually change your posts or do you let people speak their hearts out?
I do deal with those comments, but I don't fight with those people who write negative comments from me. So yeah, of course, if you're visible, it comes with the territory. So I had everything from constructive criticism to completely random and negative comments. And I didn't take personally anymore because, for example, I had a person, I posted a video of myself, and that person literally counted how many times I blink. And that person brought that up in every of other comments he commented on my post, and not for like good reasons, but like with random, he connected it with very just random topics, and it was just clearly because he just wanted to hurt me or something, or just that he noticed that.
Because you're blinking, that's the point.
Yeah, because obviously I have hard time with posting videos of myself where I'm nervous. Obviously that's a thing you do with your body when you're nervous. You're blinking fast, and the person counted my blinks, and he brought that up in every of those comments. Now, yeah, I block those people, but most of the time I see comments as feedback, but not all feedback is equal. So if someone is adding a different perspective or pointing something out in a respectful way, I actually appreciate that. So it makes the conversation better, and sometimes it even improves how I think about a certain topic. But if it's just a noise or negativity with no real substance, I don't feel the need to engage, and I don't go back and change my post because of those comments. My content reflects my thinking at that moment and how I stand by it. So what do I focus on is how I respond, because of the comment section is a part of your brand just as much the post itself. So I try to stay calm and respectful, intentional, even when the other person isn't. And if someone crosses the line, it happened, I have no problem setting boundaries or just blocking that person. And at the end of the day, you can't build a strong presence if you're trying to please everyone. You build it by being clear and what you stand for.
I understand. Thank you. I see you work closely with founders on their LinkedIn presence. And from your experience, is there a common fear they probably don't openly admit? Say they're not growing fast enough, or perhaps they're losing momentum, not seeing the results from their content. How do you help them navigate that?
Yeah, there's definitely a common fear, and they don't say it directly. They don't admit it. And on the surface, they will talk about growth, reach, or not getting enough engagement. But underneath that fear is actually like, what if I show up consistently and doesn't work? Will I look stupid? and that's the part that makes them uncomfortable, because posting once and getting no results is easy to ignore, but showing up for weeks or months with no clear feedback starts to feel personal. And a lot of them also worry about perception. They don't want to look like they're trying too hard, or that they are trying to become influencers, or that they look stupid in front of peers. Or that they are afraid of being judged by their own network. So it's not just a content problem, it's a visibility problem as well. And what I help them do first is to shift the expectations. So instead of chasing quick results, we focus on building proof of work. So because LinkedIn rewards consistency over time, not just isolated posts, then we make it practical by defining clear content pillars so they are not guessing what to post. And we simplify their message so it actually connects with the right people. Because if you're just trying to post like just jargon post, like industry jargon with words that nobody understands, it won't be clear and it won't land with your audience. And lastly, we track signals beyond just likes, like profile views, inbound messages, and conversation that can drive opportunities. And that's where they start seeing like real traction. And once they get that small proof that it's working, that fear usually disappears, because now they're not guessing anymore, they're building something predictable.
In other words, you are encouraging them to test different approaches.
Exactly. That's how it works. There's no other way around. That's what I did as well. It took me so many months to test what works with my audience. So yeah, takes time.
Okay, good. And now there is a formula that pops up quite often. The simpler, the better. It usually works for most social media posts and probably on LinkedIn as well. But what about more complex subject and more about more complex verticals, for example, that cannot be, simplified? I'm speaking about B2B, engineering, AI. Is there a way to make it simpler again, but not to lose depth or credibility?
Yes, but I actually think people misunderstand what simple means. Because simple doesn't mean like shallow or dumbing it down. It actually means clear. You can absolutely talk about complex things like B2B, engineering, AI. The problem is that most people try to explain everything at once. And that's where it breaks, because what works better is narrowing the focus. So instead of explaining the whole system, you explain one idea, one problem, and one insight at the time. So you don't try to cram everything in one post and explain everything you know. And that's how you keep the depth without overwhelming people. And I work with founders in technical industries, and we never remove the complexity. We structure it. So we turn complex ideas into clear narratives so people can understand it. And we turn processes into step-by-step thinking. So if they have complex processes, when it comes to engineering, we broke those down with simple steps so everybody can understand that. And also we turn jargon into a language their audience actually uses, because these technical founders tend to use like these industry words nobody can understand. And we try to simplify it, not dumping it down, but simplifying, because sometimes they just say, I don't want to dump it down. I don't want to sound stupid. No, you are not sounding stupid. We just simplify the language. So yeah, because credibility doesn't come from sounding complicated. It comes from making something complex feel understandable. And ironically, so that is much harder to do than actual like posting industry jargon.
So essentially, you're trying to add some structure, simplify the language, and then you're not trying to make it a Wikipedia article. You just deliver a concise post that contains the gist of the entire thing, not the phenomenon with all those diversities and divagations, whatever it is, just straight to the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I had a client who was an university professor, and she was talking in like Shakespeare language. And that was so hard because I literally told her that we are not writing a research paper on LinkedIn. We are writing social media posts. The attention is hard to earn. So you have to simplify your language. We have to put white like line breaks and white spaces to make it readable. We are not writing an essay. And it was super hard
like a human being.
Yes, it was super hard to explain to her that writing for like research papers on university and writing for social media is completely two different things. So yeah, most people can like confuse that.
Yeah, I can understand. You've read my messages. I'm insufferable.
Yeah, like using these words, what am I reading? And then I simplify it and sort of like synonyms. Like, okay, now I get it.
The words nobody uses, right? That's why I don't have a LinkedIn account.
You don't have LinkedIn?
Well, I do, but I don't actually conduct it. I don't write there anything there because you see, it will be Shakespearean kind of thing. I will be the classy girl.
Now you should start posting. Okay. It will compound, trust me.
Okay. I'll take this advice, you see. Okay, let's speak about creation again. You told me that you wrote one thing, several things at a time, and then you try to rewrite it again and then engage with people. And how much time per day, let's say per day, do you spend deleting content, not actually creating it? Because you probably have drafts, concepts, ideas that need to be retraced, recycled, thought over, returned to, whatever. So how many times do you actually need to rewrite your post to finally convey a message?
I don't spend time deleting content after it's posted. And once it's out, it's out. It reflects what I thought at the moment and I stand by it. When it comes to drafts, I don't delete much either. I store everything in a tool called Authored Up and I just leave it there. Because ideas aren't bad, they're just sometimes not ready yet to be posted. And what doesn't work today might turn into a great post later with a different angle, a better timing. And in terms of rewriting, I try not to overcomplicate it. So if I feel like I'm rewriting something 5 or 6 times, it's usually a sign that idea itself isn't clear yet. So instead of forcing it, I just step back and simplify the message. And most of my posts come together in 1-2 solid passes when the idea is right. Because I cannot polish it forever. It's more about the clarity itself.
So you're simplifying it in structure. Go back to number one, to point one.
Exactly. I love to use these copywriting frameworks like the PAS frameworks and the IDA framework. So it just makes the writing much easier.
I understand. So is there any difference between selling content on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn? Obviously, there is. And I would like to ask if it is reasonable for brands to drive sales on LinkedIn, because this is the platform for people who are currently looking for jobs or for personal branding. Does it actually make sense to drive sales there?
Yes. Personally, I'm not active on other social medias than LinkedIn, only for my personal accounts. But yes, they should do that. But also there's a big difference. And most brands get it wrong because they treat all platforms the same. On TikTok and Instagram, attention and impressions are cheap because there are a lot of users. You're getting millions of impressions, but the conversion can be low. You also get the impressions quickly, and it's mostly broad and not always high intent. And LinkedIn is the opposite because impressions are more expensive in a sense, but they're coming from people who are actually make decisions like founders, CEOs, or people with budgets. So the game isn't more about the volume, but the quality, and that changes how you sell. So on TikTok or IG, you can lean into entertainment and fast hooks to drive impulse, but on LinkedIn, you are building trust over time. And on LinkedIn, you are not trying to go viral. You're trying to become the obvious choice to your ICPs. And that's why direct selling usually doesn't work there. What works is showing how you think, showing proof of your work, and creating content that makes people feel like, I would trust this person with my business, So yes, it's absolutely reasonable to drive sales on LinkedIn, but it doesn't happen with just one post. It happens through consistency, positioning, optimizing your profile, posting, and staying top of mind with the right people.
So what do you think about LinkedIn's foreseeable future? Will it step down as a platform that helps promote personal brands? And if yes, what transformation can be expected? For example, is it going to be more like a product from Meta, or is it going to be something completely different, or is it going to be more like TikTok? Or if there is, I don't know, a third secret thing, we do not know what to expect.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to part of Meta. It's currently Microsoft, and I think it's staying there. And I don't think LinkedIn is going anywhere. If anything, it's becoming more important because while other platforms are getting noisier and more entertainment driven, LinkedIn is still one of those few places where attention is tied to business outcomes. And that said, it is changing. We're already seeing more AI generated comment, more volume, more noise, and that usually leads to one thing, and that is that trust becomes the filter on LinkedIn. So I think the future of LinkedIn won't be about who posts the most, but who is the most credible on LinkedIn, the people who have a clear point of view, can communicate simply and actually put it up with like real experience. Those are the ones who will stand out. And also on LinkedIn, discourage shifting. So it's not just about the feed anymore, but your content is starting to live outside of LinkedIn through search and AI systems. So the LLMs who are citing like where they are getting their sources from, I think the first or second place is LinkedIn. So they are definitely searching for keywords and these stuff. So that means just basically your personal brand becomes something bigger than just your profile. And in terms of lifespan, I don't think in years when it comes to LinkedIn, but in skills. I think in skills. As long as people need trust to make decision, platforms like LinkedIn will have a place. So, but the real asset isn't LinkedIn itself. It's your ability to be understood, trusted, and remembered, and that just never expire.
Okay, I see. And you've tackled the subject of authenticity and trust. And how can actually a person, a creator, remain authentic while people, I think, many readers, many viewers, believe that there might be a touch of ChatGPT or any other LLM doing that and writing posts?
So definitely personal stories, like sharing your real opinions and sharing your real experiences you got through your work. So you can use AI in your content. I use AI in my content, but it never does the thinking for me. So I think it should be important that it doesn't do the thinking for you, but it helps you with ideas, with drafts. And for people like you and me who are not native English speakers, to help with the grammar or the spelling. So these are the things I would use to increase my authenticity. But these AI posts can be like super recognizable, and I wouldn't recommend using those on your LinkedIn.
I see. And speaking about features of LinkedIn, you're as a creator who writes posts. Probably you noticed something about the editor itself, that it lacks certain features. What features would you add as a creator?
LinkedIn has improved a lot, let's just say. I've been using it for like 2-3 years, but there are still things that I feel like it's missing as a creator. And the biggest one is better creator focused monetization and ownership, because LinkedIn doesn't have a monetization program. Right now, you can build like a huge audience, but there's no real native way to monetize it directly inside of the platform. You still have to take people off LinkedIn to newsletters, offers, services, or external tools to make money. And considering LinkedIn is pushing more creator features and content formats, that feels like a gap. And another thing is like content organization. Like you post consistently, you build valuable content, and then it just disappears into the feed. There's no clean way for someone new to your profile to explore your best ideas in a structured way. Even though LinkedIn has added creator tools like analytics, the experience is still very post by post rather than like library based that they can browse. And I think that's going to matter more as the platform grows, because more people are starting to post on LinkedIn and become creators. And LinkedIn is becoming more of a knowledge platform, not just a feed. People come here to learn about certain topics. So if I could add one more thing, it would be like a proper content hub, or like a creator profile view where your best posts and ideas and themes can be organized intentionally, almost like a personal website inside of LinkedIn. So because right now the opportunity is huge, but the structure isn't fully yet there.
And how do you think, could or would LinkedIn introduce this premium subscription? Is it possible? Are they even thinking about that, perhaps?
LinkedIn is already testing parts of that idea, just not in the way people expect. You don't use LinkedIn, but there's the boost feature where you can pay to push your post to a wider audience. It pops up on the top of your post. But personally, I would be careful with that. I don't use it. I never tried it. Because the moment you show the platform you are willing to pay for reach, you are stepping into a different game, and they will thank your organic reach. And it becomes more pay to play a game. Over time, your organic reach just becomes less reliable. So for creators, that trade-off isn't always worth it to thank your organic reach, especially on LinkedIn, where organic distribution is still one of the biggest advantages compared to other platforms. Would they introduce full Premier Creator subscription? Maybe, but even if they do, I don't think paying for priority in the feed in the long term will win, because people will just pin like ads and like cold pitches onto the feed. So if your content doesn't resonate, paying to show it more won't fix that. It will just make it more people ignore it, because attention on LinkedIn is trust-based. And if your content does resonate, you don't need to pay to be seen consistently. So yes, it will be profitable in the short term, but for creators building a personal brand, I still bet on the organic trust over paid reach every time.
Actually, it reminds me of Twitter, now X. You use it? You know it?
Mhm.
Yeah, you know those blue
No,
ticks. Oh, okay, I use it. So you see, there are people with blue ticks, so they're confirmed, verified, whatever, but you pay for the tick, and you can actually post whatever you want, not just 250.
Yes, close to Instagram, like they have that verified like tick.
Yeah, and you can write long posts. And of course, because they're paid, they're always on your feed. And you do not even read them because they're very long. You don't really want to press another button. And you're on Twitter, actually. It's 200 something characters it is supposed to be. And then you see a long post and you're like, nah, this is not interesting. So I think this could have happened to LinkedIn if they decided to introduce this feature.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't use it or wouldn't like it because it just feels fake. If the platform knows that you are willing to pay for reach, that's a bad sign.
That's lack of authenticity again. This is not about trust, exactly. This is about money.
You're paying for people to see your posts.
This is lame. This is lame, you see?
You can even write like a good post. People to like it or see you have to pay.
This is very sad, honestly. Something Elon Musk's usually doing. Okay.
He's talking. Hates LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, Telegram and Discord have solidified the private community trend. Is there an undercurrent of a similar tendency somewhere on LinkedIn? How do you think?
Yes, that shift is definitely happening, just more quietly on LinkedIn. So people still post publicly because that's how you grow. The feed is your discovery engine. But what I'm seeing more and more is creators building a second layer of LinkedIn, private communities, email lists, small groups. I have an email list because that gives you attention, but private spaces gives you that. And that's where monetization can actually happen. So it's not really either or. It's more about public content to attract the right people and private spaces to build stronger relationships and convert. Would it be more profitable to only focus on subscribers? Not really, because then you lose the inflow of the new people. And without that, things just stagnate. And the real leverage is in combining both, to be honest. And so use LinkedIn to show how you think, build trust at scale and stay visible. Then move the right people to email lists, communities, or closer conversation. And that's where the business actually happens. So yes, the trend is there, but LinkedIn isn't trying to replace Telegram or Discord. So it's the top of the funnel that makes those spaces work.
I would say that there is some kind of stratification. So you have wider LinkedIn, and then there is possibly some clusters where you can, as you have previously said, build relationships with the chosen one, with the cherry-picked people, and so forth. This is how I see it.
Exactly. That's why I built an email list to build more depth with them. I send just random broadcast emails on a Sunday afternoon to motivate them to post the next week. And I won't be able to motivate the people on LinkedIn to post on LinkedIn because they don't use LinkedIn. So I can motivate on my email list.
Encouraging everyone. Okay. And should creators, consultants, and mentors on LinkedIn aim for the worldwide markets?
It depends on the goal, not the platform. because a lot of these people like default to worldwide because LinkedIn is global, but that doesn't automatically make it the right move. But going global gives you a bigger audience, that more clients, but it also gives you more competition and after a less specific message. Because if you're aiming for a global audience, you have more peers if you think of like in global. But if you think in your country, there's less competition. And in many cases, like being focused actually works better. So if your service depends on like context, language, culture, market dynamics, then a local or like a niche audience can convert much better. I've seen these with clients that work. But if what you do is more universal, like strategy, education, or just digital services, then going global makes sense. So that's how I approached it, and I do work worldwide. Funny enough, I've never worked with a person or brand from my country, but I would be curious about that because even though I'm from Serbia, I don't speak Serbian language that well because I'm not Serbian, so I don't know how would that work. So there would be a language barrier there. But yeah, I'm open to the local market, but I would much rather work with international audience.
But still, this would be an interesting experience. So you could write about this experience.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, this is an idea.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hook. That I've never worked with a person from my country.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So people are going to know that. Call it right now. Okay. And wouldn't it be more convenient or more profitable in certain cases to delegate LinkedIn to an assistant or a team? Can it smother the brand and make it lose its voice? Or is it all right? Is it fine? Is it common among brands?
Yeah, it's common. And it can be more convenient and in some cases more profitable, as you said, but only if you delegate the right parts. If you just hand over everything, including your voice, your opinions, your thinking, that's when the brand starts to lose its edge. Because on LinkedIn, people aren't really following content calendars, they're following how you think. And that's very hard to outsource. And I say that as a ghostwriter. So I do help founders and creators who don't have the time to write their own content, but the process is never like I write, you post it, but it's collaborative. So they bring the ideas, the experiences, the perspective, and I help shape that into clear and structured content that actually lands with your audience. So they voice stays intact and just express better and more consistently. And what usually works best is that hybrid approach. So you keep the thinking, but you delegate the execution. Because the moment it starts sounding like anyone could have written it, you've gone too far.
Okay, I see. So we have a few minutes, I guess. Yes, we have a few minutes for a few personal questions. I hope you're willing to share so we can pry into your mind a little. Is there any real life habit, meaning not digital habit, that influenced your LinkedIn growth? Say you decided to maintain your work-life balance, started doing more sports, chose to sleep better. I don't know, something along those lines.
That's actually funny. Yes, sleep is very important for me. So yes, actually, consistency in real life had a bigger impact than anything digital. The biggest one for me was building a routine. So posting regularly sounds very simple, but it's much easier when your days aren't chaotic. So having some structure when I work, when I create, when I rest, that made it possible to show up consistently without burning out. Yes, I burned out before, but now I have a routine I follow. So everything is like on their place. Sleep has also played a huge role because when you're tired, everything just feels harder. Writing takes longer, ideas don't flow, and you just start overthinking simple things. And when I'm well rested, I slept well, I can write faster and much more clearly. And that's something people don't talk about enough, that time away from your screen. because some of my best ideas don't come from when I'm trying to write. They come when I'm walking, traveling, or just like observing people. When I'm at the airport, I'm just looking at people and thinking about, oh, what this person is doing, Um, and that's where content actually starts, or like real life, not in the feed. So for me, LinkedIn growth wasn't just about strategy, it was creating a lifestyle that supports showing up consistently.
Okay, and if someone dismisses you with a phrase, so not knowing anything about the story behind your LinkedIn growth, say a person says, well, she's just lucky, okay, what would be your reaction?
I would agree to a point. To a point. Because yes, timing matters, opportunities matter, being in the right place at the right time can help. But what people call luck is usually consistent they don't see, or they can't see, they don't want to see. The months of posting when nothing happened, the ideas that didn't land, the discipline to keep showing up anyway when nothing is working. Luck might open the door, but you still have to be ready to walk through that door. And that's the part that people don't see. And so I don't take that personally when someone says that. If anything, I take it as a sign that visible results are working, even the process behind is obvious.
Okay, and now that you've improved your writing, you probably learned how to work with different ideas, how to twist them, this thing, that. What other skills has LinkedIn helped you develop, maybe without even you realizing it?
What LinkedIn really helped me develop, like alongside writing, is thinking. And when you write consistently, you're forced to clarify your ideas. You can hide behind vague opinions. You have to make them understandable to other people. As I said, these technical founders can use like these complex words nobody understands you. So you're forced to simplify it so people can understand it. And that sharpens how you think in general. And another big one is communication that I have developed as a skill, not just in post, but in conversations, how I respond to people, how I explain things simply, or how I handle different perspectives from people. It also improved my ability to read people through comments, DMs, reactions. You start to understand what people care about and what resonates and what creates trust. And I think one underrated skill is confidence in your voice. At the beginning, you second guess everything, like we all do. And over time, you get more comfortable saying what you actually think, not what everyone agrees with. So LinkedIn didn't just make me a better writer, it made me clearer, more aware, and more confident how I show up.
Oh, that's a lot, actually. That's very important to find your voice and not to be afraid of showing your voice because people can judge, obviously. And when your audience grows, that may be a pressure not everybody is willing to withstand. Not everyone is able to withstand, I would say. So it does teach you a lot. I mean, from this point of view, that's a very valuable lesson, I would say.
Yes, exactly. Yes, LinkedIn taught me a lot. It also, there's a lot of people just building relationships and networking. It's super important. And I had to learn how to network because I was just a student coming to LinkedIn trying to find a remote job, and suddenly I just had to meet random people.
Random people
So
are
I had to
nice.
learn that.
Random people are nice.
Yeah, I'm talking with random people.
Yeah, indeed. Very random people, by the way.
And I had to learn that, and I had to learn how to approach these people I don't know anything about. So yeah, that's definitely a skill to develop, and it's useful.
Yeah, I see, because you meet different people on the internet, and now as the internet is growing into our personal space, I think it's important to learn how to communicate with people outside of the internet and within the internet. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you very much. It was a very exciting conversation. I'm sorry that it was, well, not from the right foot, but we made it work.
I will make
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much for your professionalism. It was an exciting lecture. I was very happy to discuss it with you. Now I know a little more about LinkedIn. Have a nice conversation with your next friend, colleague, whoever they are.
No.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye, Nikolett.
Have a nice day. Bye. Bye.